All right, I'm here with Catharine Arnston, the founder of ENERGYbits. Welcome to the show.
Oh, so glad to be here, Daniela. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we connected at Metabolic Health Summit, and you told me all about your company. I tried the ENERGYbits. I love them. My cats love them. And I was really intrigued by just understanding algae. I mean, this whole world that I never really learned about. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started with the company, and
Sure.
what is behind all of this.
Yeah. Well, algae is an unusual thing to be a specialist in. Most people sadly think of it as pond scum, but as you're going to find out today, it's a nutritional rock star, balances your blood sugar, helps you lose weight, protects your mitochondria, ensures your metabolic health. It's unbelievable. I couldn't live without it. I've been taking it myself for 12 years, and it's a multi-billion, that's with a B, multi-billion-dollar agricultural crop in Asia. In Japan, they don't leave their house without taking their chlorella algae. And we're going to talk about two algae today, spirulina and chlorella. But let me tell you first how I fell into this crazy world of algae. I'm actually Canadian. I lived in Boston for 33 years, but all my family's still in Canada. And I had an MBA, and I had a corporate career of 25 years, international business, nothing to do with nutrition. And then about 13 years ago, my younger sister, who I'm very close to in Canada, developed breast cancer. Now, I want everybody to know she's fine. She's been cancer-free for 12 years, which is the biggest
Fantastic.
news. But as she was preparing for her chemotherapy, her oncologist, which is a cancer specialist, told her she needed to change her diet to an alkaline diet. And they didn't tell her why or what it was. So when she got home that day, the first call she made was to me, her big sister who loves her. And I'm just a really good researcher. And here I was a business person. I knew nothing about nutrition. I said, well, but I can find out, because I knew how to get on the internet. And I found out that an alkaline diet was mostly a plant-based diet, because of the phytonutrients and the chlorophyll that have been proven to be helpful to building your immune system. So I spent months researching things, going through the NIH library, read like 10 books, and gave her some tips to food to eat, what not to eat. She went through chemo, completely healed. And in the process, I learned about plant-based nutrition and was stunned by what I was reading. Now, this was 13 years ago, and people weren't talking about plant-based nutrition like they are now. So I thought, man, this stuff is too powerful. Somebody's got to tell the world. So I thought, well, I have no idea how, but I'm going to give it a try. So I thought, well, I need some nutrition education. So I went to a 1-year certificate program at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. So I'm a board certified health coach. And then I taught plant-based nutrition at corporations and hospitals. And this is what truly led me to algae, because as I was teaching people the importance of eating vegetables, they all told me, well, hey, my mother's been trying to get me to eat my vegetables since I was a kid. So you're not telling me anything new. But what I learned was the reason they weren't doing it was multiple reasons. It was just too much work. They were heavy to carry home from the grocery store. Maybe they didn't live near a grocery store. They took too long to clean, to cook, to eat, and maybe they had digestive issues or too many carbs, or they spoiled too much. Their kids wouldn't eat them. Their husbands, like endless reasons why people weren't eating vegetables. So I thought, okay, I have to find something that gives them the nutrition of vegetables, but without any of the work. And I didn't know what I was going to find, but back to the internet I went, and I just looked at everything I'd found for my sister, and nothing worked until I got to algae. And that's when the miracle really happened. And I'm going to show you first of all, the algae is the most alkaline food in the world, which was what got me started on this process. It's also the most nutrient dense food in the world. NASA says algae has 1,000 times 1 gram of algae has nutrition equal to 1,000 grams of vegetables. 1 to 1,000. That's crazy. The United Nations has endorsed algae, especially spirulina algae, which is one of the ones we're going to talk about today, as the answer to world hunger, because it has the highest concentration of protein in the world. Ours has 64% protein. This is incredible. And that was back in 1974. You can go online and Google the papers from that conference. That much protein balances your blood sugar. We're going to get to that in a minute. So alkaline, nutrient dense, high amount of protein, 40 vitamins and minerals, scientifically documented. There are tens of thousands. And in fact, 100,000 scientific papers, NIH from Canada, the United States, India, Taiwan, all over the world, documenting all the health benefits of algae, except scientists like to talk to other scientists. And none of this knowledge has made its way out into the consumer world here in North America. They know about it in Asia, but they don't know about it here. So, and because it's all grown in Asia, nobody here knows about it, because you don't ride your bicycle by a algae farm like they do in Japan or in China or Korea. Algae is everywhere, just like here, wheat is everywhere, or corn is everywhere, or I live in Boston and there's Dunkin' Donuts factories everywhere. So I tell people algae isn't new, it's just new to you. And the thing that I loved so much and why it was the answer is, with all this great nutrition and all this protein, and the fact that it's food and science-based, it comes in little tablets. I'm showing Daniela a little container full of spirulina tablets and a container full of the chlorella tablets. Spirulina is a blue-green algae. These tablets are the size of a baby aspirin, and each one of them has the same nutrition equal to an entire plate of vegetables that you didn't have to clean, cook, or eat. No carbs, 1 calorie per tablet, high protein. It is the most efficient nutrition in the world. So if you don't like vegetables, don't have time for vegetables, there's too much
trouble
fiber,
digesting vegetables. Yeah.
There's zero carbs in our tablets. 1 tablet, same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables that you didn't have to clean, cook, eat, throw out, because we all know that vegetables spoil very quickly. No sugar, no carbs, 1 calorie. This is a meal replacement. If you took 10 or 20, you would be full for hours. Balance your blood sugar. We're going to talk about the 2 algae, because spirulina has more essential fatty acids than chlorella. But that was what really did me. And so you could swallow them, you can put them in a smoothie, you could add them to a trail mix if you wanted. Most people, I will say, swallow the spirulina, which we call ENERGYbits, because it gives you energy effortlessly. You can take them with you on travel, to the work, to the gym. I have them in my handbags. I have them in all my pockets, because I have blood sugar issues as well. And if I get to a point where I haven't eaten and I'm hypoglycemic, I just throw back a handful of spirulina, and because you get shaky, right? And you sweat, and I know how it feels. This thing has saved my life. And at the same time, it's giving me all the green nutrition I need, all the protein I need, all the chlorophyll, all the vitamins and nutrients. So it's good for anyone, but particularly people who have blood sugar, insulin, metabolic health issues. This is your answer. It is unbelievable. And I'm trying my best to help people understand it, because it is, I can't tell you how easy it is, and how concentrated with nutrition it is, and how certainly ours is safe. I can't say about everybody else's, but ours is really safe.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So what are you mentioned 40 vitamins and nutrients. So can you tell us, besides the proteins, is it a complete protein? So all the amino acids?
Yeah, it is,
because it's an
protein.
Algae, not a plant, right? That's where there's that difference.
Okay, well, I'll tell you. So the 2 algae, first of all, was the first life on Earth almost 4 billion years ago. So it's been here a very long time, and it's everywhere. There's macroalgae, which is seaweed, and we're talking about microalgae, which is microscopic in size, and it's so you can't even see it. But it's in the oceans, the lakes, the rivers, the streams, your swimming pool, your aquarium. And the 2 we're going to talk about today, spirulina and chlorella, are not from the ocean, lake, rivers, and streams. These are harvested as food crops in fresh water, so hydroponically. And I'm just going to show you a picture. This is a spirulina farm, and this is a chlorella farm. And we call those little tablets that I talked about, we call them bits, because they're bits of food. You can't show me a supplement farm, but as I shown Daniela, a couple of algae farms. So after it's grown, it takes about 6 weeks to grow in the fresh water. Then we air dry it. Now, this is very important, because we don't use high heat when we dry ours. Everybody else does. The reason we don't is because high heat kills enzymes, and you need enzymes for digestion. And there's a very important one called superoxide dismutase that protects your mitochondria. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's found in spirulina. So we dry it and then we just press them into little tablets. So they're almost like, nuts or kale chips. They're nutrient dense bits of food, but they're quite different, spirulina and chlorella. Spirulina is a blue-green algae. It has, and it's called blue-green because it has two pigments in it. One is a blue pigment called phycocyanin, also a big mouthful, and the other pigment is chlorophyll. Chlorella only has chlorophyll, but let's talk about spirulina first, because it's the one that is most helpful for people with blood sugar issues. And the reason is it has the highest protein. It's 64% protein. Chlorella has 60, which is still pretty reasonable, but spirulina, the reason why it's particularly good for blood sugar issues is that not only is all the protein in amino acid form already, so there's nothing for your body to break down, but spirulina is a bacteria. It does not have a cellulose wall. It's called a cyanobacteria. And the reason why that's important for anyone with blood sugar issues is that it gets into your bloodstream almost instantly, certainly instantly if you chew it, and if you swallow it, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It literally bypasses digestion. It gets absorbed so quickly. So that makes it easy for all the protein to get into your system. And also spirulina is loaded with B vitamins that convert the protein into energy. Now, it's not a rush of energy or a crash of energy. It's just very steady energy. And you may not even notice it. I call it quiet energy. You would notice it if you were maybe working out. You would probably run faster or run longer and you wouldn't notice it till the end. Or if you're weightlifting, you would lift more or lift longer and you wouldn't notice it. You just feel alert. You feel awake and alert. That's it. No drama. That's what I love about it, because you're not hungry. You're not fatigued. You have great mental alertness, and there is no limit to how much you can eat. We generally recommend 5 or 10 at least in the morning to get you started for your day, to cut your appetite. Does not interfere with intermittent fasting because there are 0 carbs. It's ketogenic. It does not decrease ketones, does not increase glucose. Very, very, very important. Does not include glucose. So you could take 5 or 10 or 20. We fuel NHL teams. They put 75 in their smoothie before a game of the spirulina to give them energy. Like I said, they could be a meal replacement. Have them as often as you want throughout the day, any time of day. And it's the energy you get is not like caffeine or sugar. It doesn't excite you. It's at a metabolic level, because your mitochondria generate cells for your living. They generate energy for you to breathe, for your heartbeat, for your digestion, also for thinking, and also if you want to run errands and run a marathon. But you could even take it before bed if you wanted, although we do generally recommend chlorella at bed, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So that's spirulina.
I had a quick question about,
yes.
So when you said that it doesn't raise glucose, so have you tried it with a continuous glucose monitor on, and you take a bunch of them and there's no rise in glucose?
Yep. Nope. Okay. No. We did that at a couple of conferences. We had a Keto Mojo was our at the booth next door, and so we did this with a number of people because and I spoke frequently at the low carb conference. They used to do them in Florida. They still do them in San Diego. Same thing, and we did this with Dom D'Agostino. He's a keto scientist and also a NASA scientist, and he did tests. So we've done the actual tests, and we've taken pictures of people's glucose monitor before the algae, and 10 minutes and half an hour after. We did it with Dr. Pompa. I used to do his conferences as well. So we've done it multiple times, and even in the science papers, they also confirm that this is the case. So
so I'm
pretty remarkable,
because if there's the proteins and they have that blood sugar stabilizing effect, because you're getting we do get a little bit of glucose and potentially insulin from some of those amino acids, but perhaps just a small stable amount that's not necessarily noticeable and more stabilizing than spiking.
Well, also because there's the concentration of protein is very high, but the amount of protein is not. Okay. So 30 tablets, I haven't actually ever done the calculation, but 30 tablets have 5 grams of protein. So
Okay.
divide by 5. So
6.
it's like 1 gram of protein for 6 tablets.
Right.
That's probably why the concentration is high, but the quantity is not. And this is also really good for longevity purposes because there's something called the mTOR pathway. When you eat too much animal protein, it stimulates this pathway, which can become carcinogenic as it stimulates the growth, but it could also stimulate the growth of cancer. When you're younger, it stimulates more likely, they have found that it stimulates the growth of your muscles, but as you age, there's more cancer cells roaming around, and so it can stimulate that. So this does not stimulate that. A, I think it's because it's plant-based protein, and also B, the actual quantity of protein is low. But here's the cool thing about algae, and I'm going to show you another picture. So in animal protein, the protein is all bound up, and it can in aminos, and your body can't digest animal protein. It has to break it down into aminos, and that can take sometimes up to 3 days, and you only absorb it if you have all the factors and cofactors, and sometimes you only end up absorbing 10% of it as aminos because you didn't have all those factors. And then there's collagen protein, which are in smaller clusters of aminos called peptides, and they get absorbed faster. But then with algae protein, the aminos are already individual. So no work for your body to do to get access, no bonds at all to be able to absorb those aminos. So with animal protein, if you had 50 grams of animal protein, sometimes after 3 days, you ultimately end up only absorbing 10% as aminos. You maybe 50 grams of protein, but only maybe 5 grams of aminos. But when you take the algae, 5 grams of protein is 5 grams of aminos because you get 99% of it is bioavailable and it's instant. So it's not only available, it's absorbed right away. So I call it efficient nutrition for that reason. It has a lot of vitamins and minerals in it, but the protein in particular gets into your bloodstream very quickly and gets to work really quickly with no work and no spikes. So I think that's why it has that effect. And it's a combination of being individual aminos, rapid absorption from the lack of cellulose wall. And so it's just very gets to where it needs to go.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you were going to talk about, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Chlorella, yes. Well, the other great thing about spirulina is it has a lot of essential fatty acids like omega-3. And there's another one called GLA, which is technically a omega-6, but behaves like an omega-3 because it's not, we don't use high heat. Omega-6s that are in processed food have been exposed to heat and they become inflammatory. And proof that omega-6 without heat is beneficial. The highest concentration of GLA, which is an omega-6, is in mother's breast milk. Now, Mother Nature wouldn't have put it there unless it was good for you, but it's because it's been unheated. So the fact that we don't use high heat on our algae, everybody else does, means that our GLA behaves like an omega-6 or omega-3 and reduces inflammation. So, which is also really important if you have, any kind of metabolic health issues. So that's spirulina, energizing, nourishing. That's why we call ours ENERGYbits, because it builds, gives you energy, both mentally, physically, and at the cellular level. The other algae is chlorella, which actually, says I got it here, we call ENERGYbits. And a couple of cool things about it is that it has the highest chlorophyll in the world. Remember I said protein, spirulina has the highest protein. Chlorella has the highest chlorophyll. What's so important about chlorophyll? Well, I can go on forever about chlorophyll, but let me tell you, it builds your blood. This is the chemical composition of chlorophyll. This is your blood. They're virtually identical. You can go online to see this if you're only listening. In blood, you have iron in the middle, and that's what carries oxygen. Chlorophyll's been used for centuries for healing purposes. Even as recent as World War II, they would give the injured liquid chlorophyll because it would help build their blood. And when you have healthy blood, you're going to have a healthier body, healthier brain. Everything works better with healthy blood. So that's number one. Chlorophyll is very blood building. Chlorophyll also turns out is a fat-based pigment. Now we all know that healthy fats like omega-3s and vitamin E or D are good for your cell walls, because all of your health issues, good or bad, start at the cellular level. We're going to talk about the mitochondria in a minute, but also the cell wall. It has to be permeable in order for nutrients to get in and toxins to get out. And so because chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment, it has that same benefit and effect. And I tell people, well, if you have dirty windows, you can't see out and sunlight can't get in. And so think of chlorophyll as window washers for your cell walls. So that's pretty cool about chlorophyll. It also kills bacteria, by the way, so very cleansing to the colon. You can use it topically for injuries. It's pretty amazing. The other cool thing about chlorella, and so chlorophyll, as I said, chlorella has the highest chlorophyll in the world. It has 500 times more chlorophyll than arugula. You could fill up an entire room with arugula and not get the same amount of chlorophyll that's in one of these little tiny tablets. Seriously.
Wow.
It's so concentrated. It has 1,000 more than Chinese greens. And hey, my arugula is going yellow after about day 3. I don't know about anybody else's. That's because it didn't start with much chlorophyll in the first place. Our vegetables, sadly, just are not what they used to be 50 years ago. The soil is so damaged that even if you are eating vegetables, you're getting fiber, you're getting calories, probably some sugar, but you're not getting nutrition. And so that's why I love the algae so much. 1 calorie, 0 sugar, no effect on your blood sugar, and still concentrated nutrition that's effortless. So, but anyway, so chlorella, highest chlorophyll in the world. It also has the hardest cell wall in the plant kingdom. Remember I said spirulina has no cellulose wall. That's why it's technically a bacteria. Chlorella is in the plant kingdom. And that hard cell wall attaches to toxins of any kind: lead, mercury, radiation, aluminum, lactic acid, any kind, alcohol. It's unbelievable. And so you don't need activated charcoal if you want to do a detox. Just take your chlorella. You do need to take a larger amount. Like usually for both algae, we say, well, even if you took 5 or 10 a day, that would be sort of a maintenance amount, although we encourage you to take more. But and so with the chlorella, same thing. 5 or 10 would build your immune system, give you enough chlorophyll to build your blood. But for detox purposes, you need probably 20 tablets or more. And, I eat about 100 a day. So, there's no upper limit. Again, remember our NHL players are taking 75 chlorella after a hockey game to pull out lactic acid. The other, so chlorella, because of the hard cell wall that pulls toxins, high chlorophyll, which is cleansing, and also because it has the highest RNA and DNA in the world. It has the highest tryptophan in the world, which is a precursor to melatonin and serotonin. It has the daily requirement of vitamin K2, which moves excess calcium out of soft tissue like your blood vessels, your heart, your skin, and moves them into your bones. So it prevents osteoporosis. So chlorella is a wellness algae. That's why we call ours recovery bits, because you recover from anything, from your day, from toxins, from alcohol, from any kind of Lyme disease. It's really amazing. But because your body goes through a detox repair cycle when you're sleeping, we generally recommend you take it at night. You can take either one of them any time of day, with a food, instead of food, with each other, by themselves. We even have a brand called ENERGYbits. That's a blend of the 2 algae. It's half spirulina and half chlorella, if you just want really simplicity. But we generally recommend, if you can, buy them separately, because you just have more control. If you're hungry and you want to balance your blood sugar quickly, that's spirulina, because it will get into your bloodstream instantly. Because it's no cell wall and a higher protein and higher essential fatty acids. If you're looking for detox and maybe cleansing, build your immune system, that would be chlorella at nighttime. But you probably need at least 20 to get the detox benefits. But the good news is chlorella actually tastes pretty good if you mix it with macadamia nuts, which are ketogenic, great for blood sugar, very high in fat. Or I eat them with my favorite is pistachios. I have a salt and vinegar pistachio nut I'm eating right now with my chlorella. So now you have a little snack at bedtime that's going to help you sleep, help you with your elimination, because it stimulates peristalsis. help you with repair while you're sleeping. Nothing like having the cleanup crew while you're getting your beauty rest, right?
Yeah. So can
So
you talk?
they complement one another.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit more about the mitochondria?
Yeah. So a lot of people, you're going to hear a lot about mitochondria in the coming years because all science, for the last 10 years, everyone's been realizing inflammation is the cause of all disease. Well, they're now realizing 90% of that inflammation is at the mitochondria level. And the mitochondria, for those who have never heard about them before, they're called little organelles. They're kind of peanut shaped that are inside all of your cells, and they generate energy for your body, for your cell operation called ATP. So they take all the food that you've eaten and convert it into this energy source called ATP. But in the process of doing that, they also generate free radicals, which are very damaging. So the reason why, and that's why all diseases they're realizing are due to damage to the mitochondria. So your mitochondria, like I said, are inside all of your cells. Now, the highest concentration of mitochondria are where the highest need for energy is. And you're going to be stunned by this, but there are 2 million mitochondria per cell in your brain. Think about that. I mean, that's a packed cell. 2 million mitochondria per cell. That's why they're realizing Alzheimer's is really a mitochondrial disease. The next highest concentration is in women's eggs. And there are 600,000 mitochondria per cell per egg. And that's because it takes a lot of energy to make another human. After that, the next highest is your heart, which is about 5,000 to 7,000, and your muscles. Things like fat have about 100 mitochondria, not a high concentration. So now the mitochondria have their own DNA. You know that you have your regular DNA, and there's about 25,000 of those. And your mitochondria have their own. And by the way, regular DNA, half of it comes from the sperm and half comes from women's eggs. Mitochondria DNA all comes from the women. And what they're realizing is that the mitochondria DNA, there's only 37 of them, but they control all the other 25,000, and they control everything else that happens in your cells, cell communication, cell autophagy, cell behavior, everything. So the key to everything is with your mitochondria DNA. But here's the problem. Inside your cell, you have your regular DNA, and then you have those little mitochondria. And inside your mitochondria is where the ATP is generated. But that's also where your mitochondria DNA are. They are ringside where the ATP is produced, which means they are ringside to where free radicals are produced. And if you've ever sat by a bonfire or close to a fireplace, or you were too close, and sparks would fly out, right? You would get burned. That's what's happening to your mitochondria DNA every single nanosecond, because they are right smack dab where the free radicals are produced. And what creates the most free radicals? Carbs and sugar. They literally exhaust and kill your mitochondria and damage your mitochondria. Sugar and carbs, refined carbs in particular, create the largest amount of free radicals. So if you want to prevent metabolic imbalances, insulin resistance, if you want to prevent disease, you've got to figure out how to protect and save your mitochondria DNA, because they are in charge of the show. So there's 2 ways you can do that. One is, solution A is reduce the number of free radicals. So you can do that by fasting, intermittent fasting, or by a keto diet, or even better, algae, because they've realized that a keto, if you have carbs, you get a large amount of free radicals. Keto diet, because fat releases fewer free radicals, that's a little safer. And then algae or fasting, you have virtually none. So a little tiny puff of equivalent of smoke. So this is, and also if you have insulin resistance and you have if you're hypoglycemic like I am, if you have any sugar issues, you want to get that sugar out of your bloodstream anyways. And by doing so, you are also saving your mitochondria. So reducing the production of free radicals is number one. The other option is to stop the damage, to remove them. And how do you do that? How do most free radicals get removed or neutralized? It's with antioxidants. But here's the problem. Your mitochondria are the only cells in your body with two membranes. I'm going to explain at the very end why there are two in the mitochondria. The first membrane is on the outside, like every other membrane in your body, and they have little they're called porins, little channels that allow antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin E to get in there. But the second membrane of your mitochondria doesn't have those. And so virtually no antioxidants can get in there to stop the free radical damage. And the worst free radical is one called superoxide. So they have discovered, however, there are 3 antioxidants that can get into that inner membrane. First one, chlorophyll. Oh, and guess what? Algae has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. The second one is melatonin, and actually algae has melatonin in it as well. But the most powerful antioxidant that gets into that inner membrane and squashes the free radicals is called superoxide dismutase. The most damaging free radical is superoxide, and it's actually an enzyme. It's called superoxide dismutase. And where is the highest concentration of superoxide dismutase? In algae, spirulina algae, not chlorella, only spirulina. Now it turns out that our bodies actually make superoxide dismutase, but we have the highest amount when we're young, which of course is when we have the most mitochondria. We don't need much help. And as you get older, you have virtually no superoxide dismutase being produced by your body. And the other problem is it's virtually non-existent in any other foods. There's a teeny tiny amount in cabbage or broccoli, but they've realized that it gets damaged during digestion. And there's now, they call it superoxide dismutase. They also call it SOD. It's shorter, easier to say. You can buy supplements that are SOD supplements, but they get damaged in your stomach digestion as well. Spirulina, because it's a bacteria with no cellulose wall that gets absorbed almost instantly, it literally bypasses digestion so that the superoxide dismutase gets into your body and your mitochondria. And just to show you how concentrated it is in spirulina, those 30 tablets that we have in little single pouches contain 24,000 units of superoxide dismutase. And they did a study and they gave people 100 units. And within weeks, their anxiety, depression, fatigue disappeared with 100. And yet you take 30 of ours and you're getting 24,000. So it's basically 1,000 units per tablet. There is nothing in the world with a higher concentration of superoxide dismutase than spirulina, but there's a catch. There's always a catch, right? Turns out superoxide dismutase is an enzyme, and high heat kills enzymes. So all those other companies that are selling spirulina at low priced in Target or Costco or probably even Whole Foods, they are low priced algae and high volume. They have to have high volume, high sales to support the low price. So they use high heat to get to market quickly. Guess what? They've just killed the superoxide dismutase because high heat will kill all enzymes, including that one. We have never used high heat because we're a high quality company, not high volume. So our superoxide dismutase is alive and well. And I think that helps explain why, sometimes when people, they use our product and they go, well, it is a little pricey, and I'll explain it to you in a minute. But then they go to Amazon, they buy a cheaper version, they always come back. And now I know why, because the other stuff just didn't have the protection of the mitochondria, because when you're saving your mitochondria, they're going to generate more energy for you. They're going to be more efficient. I was just on a diabetes summit, and they're realizing diabetes is a mitochondria disease, and mitochondria disease prevents the beta, the release of the insulin. And then of course, excess insulin damages the mitochondria, and then the mitochondria can't connect with the insulin. And so it's just a spiral. You can also get live superoxide dismutase from spirulina. that has been frozen. Although there's not many companies that do that. They're hard to find. It's hard to travel with. So it has a very high expiry date, short expiry date. Ours lasts 3 years and literally never goes bad. I mean, you could have it for 10 years and would never go bad. So it's amazing for short-term satisfying your hunger without increasing your blood sugar or decreasing your ketones, balancing your blood sugar, getting you through times of your day without interfering with any kind of blood sugar issue. And it's also good for the long term, because as you protect your mitochondria, more of them will start living, which means you'll have more energy, which means you will improve your metabolic rate and metabolic health, and stop that terrible cycle of insulin resistance. And I have one more cool thing to tell you about spirulina, and then I can sort of get to some other questions. So it's pretty amazing to me. I mean, that was enough to me that, I've been doing research on algae for 12 years, and about 6 months ago, I stumbled across something even more crazy and more amazing and science-based, by the way. So remember, I said that spirulina was a cyanobacteria and that it was the first life on Earth. So they've realized, and there's a plant biology history, it's called endosymbiotic theory. So like 3 or 4 billion years ago, this little cyanobacteria was all by itself. It started growing, who knows why, and it was generating ATP, and it was an anaerobic cell, but it released oxygen. And after about 1 billion years, there was enough oxygen on Earth that the bigger cells that were aerobic could start living. But they weren't doing so well generating ATP. And the little guy that started wasn't surviving very well because they did better without oxygen. So the big cell engulfed the little cell. But instead of basically digesting him and eating him, they said, hey, you're doing such a good job generating ATP, and we'll protect you from the oxygen on Earth that you don't like anymore. Why don't you just stay and generate ATP for us? So that cyanobacteria became your mitochondria. And the best analogy I give to people is like, if you've ever had a friend who gets kicked out from their apartment, and they call you and you go, they say, hey, can I come and stay, for a little while? And you go, okay, fine. But when they get there, they make your bed, they clean your dishes, they pick up your laundry, they do your grocery shopping, and you go, hey, stay forever. That's basically what happened. That little single cell cyanobacteria, which is like spirulina is a cyanobacteria, was engulfed by the big guy. They kind of got along so well that they stayed. And that cyanobacteria became your mitochondria. And now I'll tell you why there are 2 cells in your mitochondria. The first inner cell is from the original days when they were all by themselves as a single organism. The second cell was when they got engulfed, because all of your cells in your body have a cellulose wall around them. So it got engulfed with the second cell. So when you give yourself spirulina, you are literally feeding your mitochondria itself. It's unbelievable, right? You couldn't make this stuff up. It's all validated in science. So to me, algae doesn't get any more ancestral, doesn't get any more paleo. You can't get any further down on the food chain than the first life on Earth. And in your body, you can't get any further down into the cause of health or disease than mitochondria DNA. And they are the same thing.
That's
unbelievable.
Incredible. Yeah.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah, that's such good information. So if people are wanting to get your product, because obviously it's made without heat, we know why that's really, really important. Can you tell us where they can go to get the chlorella, the spirulina, or that combination of the 2 that you talked about?
Yes. So the website is ENERGYbits.com, ENERGYBITS.com. And we have a 20% discount for all of your community. So when you get to the shopping cart, type in Danny Hamilton, all one word, no space between it. Doesn't matter with upper or lowercase. And you'll always get 20% off. We sell them in large bags. We actually have 2 spirulina. One is the Energy Bits and one is Beauty Bits. They're identical, but we found women didn't like the packaging, and because it builds your skin and hair, and because I started the company because my sister, I wanted a pretty one for ladies. So we have a boy spirulina and a girl spirulina, but they're basically the same. There's canisters where they come with a bag inside and you can just shake them out. Then the large bags. So again, spirulina, and then chlorella is the green bag, because this is a blue algae and this is a green algae. And then we have a blended product of half spirulina, half chlorella, which is called Vitality Bits and has a red bag. And just before I close, and again, that discount code is Danny Hamilton. I don't want people to have sticker shock when they get there. So a large bag of 1,000 tablets, which you can buy as a bag or in the canister.
It's 1,000 tablets?
1,000 tablets, yes.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
1,000 tablets. So if you took 10 a day, which would be really your bare minimum, that would last you 3 months. And normally it's $125, but with your discount, it's about 100. But what I want you to know is, using that quote from NASA, 1 gram of algae equals 1,000 grams of vegetables. I calculated there's the equivalent nutrition of 551 pounds of vegetables in that bag. Now at $3 a pound, that's $1,600, right? So now you put it into context. $100 gives you 3 months of nutrition. When you work it out, it's probably a couple of dollars a day, but that's also, you'll be buying less vegetables, or maybe no vegetables. You'll be buying less protein, or maybe no protein. You'll be buying fewer supplements. It replaces multivitamins, fish oil, CoQ10. So it will save you money. It will save you time. It never spoils. I mean, we all know how many vegetables, I'm sure everybody's the same. You're throwing out a large, your green peppers go mushy and your arugula goes yellow. And again, there's no sugar in any of these things, no chemicals, no toxins. We do third-party lab tests. I call it nutrition insurance, because it gives you everything that you need. And after that, whatever you eat is just for fun or for, enjoy, taste buds delight or whatever. And it's efficient nutrition. You have to be, I also call it intelligent food, because you have to be intelligent to take it, and it knows what to do in your body. So especially if you have sugar, metabolic health issues, and that would be probably 90% of us.
Yeah, awesome. I did have one question. I saw vitamin A. Is that beta carotene or is it retinol?
Beta carotene.
Okay.
Yes, it's beta carotene. And I think it's the conversion, I think, is it's either 1 to 100 or 1 to 1,000. I don't know my math, but it's beta carotene. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And vitamin A is very important for your metabolic health. So is copper, by the way.
Yeah. Does it have copper? It's not on the copper label. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does have copper. Yep.
Awesome.
It has all, and so there's 3 types of SOD. There's extracellular, intercellular, and mitochondria, and each one of them needs a particular mineral to behave properly. One is manganese, one is copper, blanking on the third one, but they're all in the algae as well. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's because the key is to get that mitochondria working properly and being protected. So that's why I guess I like the algae, for thousands of reasons why I like the algae, but you'll see it benefits within 20 minutes. Your hunger will be gone, or even 10. And then so on the short term, it will give you some results, but on the long term, it will help generate those that mitochondria protection, so that whatever condition you are experiencing or you want to avoid, it's there for you.
Yeah, that's great. I specialize in working with people with hypoglycemia and reactive hypoglycemia. I'd love to help you reverse yours, because we don't want to just manage it, but it sounds like it's a really great tool to use as you're working on reversing it, in terms of something that you might be able to take. A lot of people are taking sugar pills, and that, a sugar pill is the worst thing you could take, because it doesn't bring your sugar up. If you don't have type 1 diabetes, sugar is not going to bring your blood sugar up. It's going to bring it up and then down. So we need to keep that in mind. So having something that stabilizes you with protein and nutrients, just a few amino acids and nutrients, that sounds like something that would be really stabilizing for the blood sugar, as opposed to something that would spike you. So it sounds like it could be a really, really great tool, but then it carries all those other benefits for it. So it's also another good tool just in your arsenal for that long-term health.
Right.
So I love that. And I'm gonna try it and see if anyone, who's listening, who has hypoglycemia or reactive hypoglycemia, if you try the ENERGYbits, please get back to us. Let us know if it's been a helpful tool for helping you sort of stabilize between meals as you're working your way towards reversing.
Yes.
So
good stuff.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on, for all this information, and for that discount code for my listeners. So everything's going to be in the show notes. Yeah, everything will be in the show notes. So you can find that there. But thanks so much for coming on, and look forward to seeing you at KetoCon.
You bet. All right. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.